Good evening and welcome back to the Black Labrador part 2. I think after reviewing part 1, it was a little bit, I couldn't get the lighting right and that. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we've got that sorted tonight. So the first stage was to get the eyes in, which we've done here. So you got all the eyes in and we started to do a bit of fur strokes behind around the eye. So I'm now wanting to look, I think, at this ear. So let's have a look. So let me see, because I've got him. Let me just zoom out a little bit. If it'll let me. Wait. Gonna let me zoom right out, but you can see this is the, so let me move these out of the way. Okay. So you can see here that we've got the top of the ear there, coming down and down there. Okay. So the reason why I'm starting with that ear is I'm right-handed, so I like to work from the left side down, so I don't smudge my work as much. If you're left-handed, you just do it the other way around. So black and white dogs, they're not always as easy as they look to do. It's not just a case of using black. There's lots of colours involved in it. So I've got the reference photograph. I don't know if you can see it. Let me just move that out of the way. You might be able to see it a little bit here. Let me just turn this. You can see this light. So let me just turn this light up a bit. There you go. Now you're getting a bit of blue in there. But so this is his ear that we're looking at. So if you look, he's got this fold. So we've got to be very careful and make sure we get this fold inside the ear. Okay, so let me make this a bit smaller and then you can actually see. Okay, so it's we just want to make it that little bit smaller. His ear. Oh, keep losing him. Because we've got this little fold here, and then as you can see, we've got these lighter areas. And then it's by using the contrast in the right way and getting the colours right that we can create this 3D effect of where we've got the folds here on the ear. So we've got let's have a look. So as we come down here, we've got this lighter bit at the bottom, then it comes up, so that's a lighter area. Then we've got like mid-tone areas here. We've got a little bit of dark here at the bottom, and then we've got a fold here that's dark, and then some lighter bits of hair, but you can see the direction in which the hair's going, and then up at the top, it's a little bit lighter and a little bit bluer. So that side is blue. The other side is a little bit browner. And then we've got underneath this ear and onto the face, we've got some very dark black. So they're the darkest areas. So with the ear, we've got more mid-tones, light tones and mid-tones to think about. But we'll put a bit of this dark in just so that gives us something to work against. Okay, so let us have a look. Let me get the reference up. So you've got your list of colours. Let me just get this back and into focus. There we go. You can see them a little bit better now. So the fold is this section here, coming down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with some, I'm going to block in the base layers by using some light colours. So look at the ear and sort of see for yourself whether you think it's a warm black or a cool black. So if you're not quite sure, if you take your reference photograph and squint at it, you'll find whether it's a warm or a cool. And this side is a little bit cooler than the other side. But it has got some warm tones in there as well. So what we'll do to start with is I'm going to take a warm grey one and a cold grey one. So what'll happen is that'll more or less be neutralized, but that is going to be a good base layer all over because you can see bits of light tone coming through the mid tones as well. So we start with a light tone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of I'm using a putty rubber. So I'm just going to press on gently and try and take out some of these lines because obviously we don't want those showing through. Even though this is going to end up a lot darker, we still don't want the lines showing through. So for now, we can just lighten them off, but just so that you can see them. I mean, normally my sort of starting point would be quite light anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take the warm grey one, which is 270, and then the cool grey one, which is 230. So this bit here is where, so this flap comes round here, and then we have this really dark section there. So that's part of the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from this point here. And I'm looking at the direction of fur. So here we've got some fur that sort of comes up over there. Okay. And then it comes round. So if you look at your pencil lines, that's what they're there to give you a guide as to which direction fur is going. So I'm basically just gently doing a light layer of the warm grey one. Now, this doesn't have to, you're not going to make this looking like fur at the moment. We're just trying to get a base layer in. Okay. But just keep your eye on your reference photograph, your lines and what have you, just to make sure that you go in, because as you come round on the ear, you will find you go in that way. So what I'm doing is I'm more or less pushing pigment into the paper. I'm trying to smooth it out a little bit for the later layer so we get a nice look. So again, I'm just keep looking at my reference photo to make sure that I'm getting these layers going in the right direction. So the fur there's coming that way. Okay. I'm only using a light layer. You can probably just about see it, but it's only a light layer. Coming down here. Okay. Then it starts about here to sort of starts to come down vertically. So change your direction as you come across it. Okay. So we're coming down to here. Now we've got a very light patch here. Now we've got a dark patch there, but it doesn't matter because we're going darker. So this is sort of going to be the lightest. So we're going to be as light as we can get for that fold on the ear. Okay. There we go. So that's the warm grey one. It's going in the direction. So it starts up here going that way. So we start going that way. We come round and we gradually come that way. And then as we get about just past halfway on the ear, we start to actually go vertically down. So by the end, you should be sort of coming down there. Okay. So that's the warm grey one. Now I'm going to go back over with another light layer of the cold grey one. Okay, doing exactly the same, but with a cold grey one. Okay, just light pressure though. Okay. They're going all over where you've been with the warm grey one, putting the cold grey one. So it's like the warm and the cold sort of neutralized by putting them on one layer on top of the other. So it cancels out being too warm or too cool. So you're getting sort of more neutral colour for your base layer, which is ideal. Okay, so again, following the direction of form, which at the moment is the first, so we're coming down vertically here. And again, it starts to go that way. Okay. So I'm not being, you can notice when I'm putting these first few light layers on, I'm not being as careful with my strokes as I will become later on. So I'll keep those. I want to keep those on that hand because we'll obviously be using those a lot for the rest of the fur. So now I'm just going to look carefully at. So on this bit, we're going to be doing quite a bit of negative. We're going to be putting the darker colours into the light to make it look like the fur's overlapping. So we've got what we're going to use. So we're going to use quite a lot of these greys. So if you've got a spare bit of paper, which is the same paper that you're working on. So I've got a little scrap of paper here. It's exactly the same. It's the Fabriano. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at some of the greys that I've got. So this one is the cold grey 3. And then I'm just going to put it against my picture and move it around and see if that relates to any of the mid-tones. So that's put cold grey 3. Yep. Let's have a look a bit. So we've got some darker tones on there. This is the cold grey 5. Yes, I can see plenty of them in there. Okay. So that's the cold grey 5. Where's the cold grey 6? Go. There's a very dark grey. Okay. So that's the cold. So that's the cold grey 3, cold grey 5, and then the cold grey 6. The cold grey 6, because don't forget these colours, you're looking at them there individually, but they will be going on top of each other. So the more colours we add, the more depth we get. So that will be great for the dark and mid-tones. And then obviously we've got, because it's got quite a bluey tinge to it, what we can use as well is we've got a Payne's grey. Yes, we've got a Payne's grey. So let's have a look at the Payne's grey against. So that's the Payne's grey there. And then we've got indigo. That's obviously quite a lot bluer, is the indigo. But if you put it against some of these darker midtones, it does actually, there is a blue tinge in there. So we could use both the Payne's grey and the dark indigo as washers, or if we need to completely darken an area, we can do that. Now then, also we will be using some of the dark sepia and also some black. And but with the black, we can, if we put the black with the indigo, it will strengthen. But that's mainly for the bottom of the ear, just there. If you look just for this bit here, but also we're going to start and introduce it here because that is going into the body and it's one of the darkest areas on the dog. So that way we can gauge the midtones. Okay. So let me sharpen. I'm not going to sharpen all these pens because some of them I'll want to work blunt because we do want a soft sort of, I mean, it's not a long, Labradors aren't long haired as such. They're quite a smooth coat on them. So, we don't want to be seeing lots of fluff, lots of flyaway hairs. So going back to the top, I'm looking now. So what I want to look at, because we're doing the negative painting, we've got the lightest layers on, which will do us for sort of, we may have to have some more, but for the fold that we've got there. So now I want to work some shadow bits behind it here, which makes it stand out. So it's going to be one of the darker midtones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start first with the lightest grey and then layer up to the darkest grey and then take it from there. So I'm starting with my cold grey 3. And what I'm going to do is right behind, so we're coming back up here. So some of this top bit here, so this is where you need to look at your reference photograph for the colours. So if you look, we've got some sections here that are they're gonna go a lot darker, but it comes down from about there. And you've got, so if you carefully just pull just a few flyaway hairs there. Okay, but this is going to go darker. This is the light patch. And then we've got another dark patch here. So the light patch goes more or less up to there. And then we've got this darker patch again here. So I'm not using first strokes as such. Again, I'm just pushing the pencil in. So this is going into what's going to be the light first. So what will happen is you'll see that it'll make, but if it doesn't, if we don't get enough there, then that's fine because we can use the, okay, so that's coming down to there. So that comes down to the beginning of this fold, which is the flap of the. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come down. We're going to go out further than we want to. So this is going to go into this section, which is slightly a lighter mid-tone. So we're going to use, so that's right by going in with the lighter one. And again, what we're doing is you can go back. We don't want to go too far into there because the fold is coming over the top. But you will get little marks where we go in and then just pull this out. So again, we're just putting this, we're building the layers up. So it's going to go through an ugly stage to start with. But what you're doing is pulling them in. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit more on this so that you can see it better. There we go. Is that a little bit better for you? There you go. So coming down because we've got this shadow comes all the way. So it's a light pressure still. And I'm just coming further out than I want the dark area to go because the dark area will always go into either another dark area or into a lighter area. So I'm going to more or less come up to this line here. Okay, and then it comes round here. So I'm using strokes that are, I'm pushing the pigment into the paper, but very lightly. And then this fold comes right down here, and this is where it does get a little bit darker. So that's where, if you look, we've got there we go. We're starting to build some tone up there. And like I said, it's not going to look, it's not full fur lines, but that's, like I said, the Labradors have a smooth coat. Right, I just have to excuse me a minute. I'm just gonna caught my finger this morning on my husband's razor. I don't know how I managed to do that. So I'm just gonna put a plaster on. I'll be a couple of seconds. Just bear with me. Sorry about that. Right, I'm back now. Should have checked on that first. But anyway, so now we've got that bit of shadow there coming down. So it's a mid-tone. So we don't want to go it really dark because down here is going to be the darkest. Then I'm just going to look where we've got this really dark tone as well. I'm just sort of gonna, so this is at the bottom of the ear. So if you look, we've got like it just comes around there. So again, I'm just gently pushing that in and it starts to come that way. Just into the bottom of the ear, just there. Okay, so we're using the cold grey 5 for this. I didn't mention it before, sorry about that. Okay, so while we're here, what we might as well do is look then. So you look how far this mid-tone's coming out. So like I say, we go out a little bit, probably a little bit further. So that's going to come out to about here. Where you've drawn if you've got your guidelines there, you should be able to see it. So then this will be another lighter area. And then we've got this, there's like a V-shaped here, which again is going in. So if you just look gently, squint at your picture. So you've got negative space on either side because you've got it sort of going into that light area, but also into this one here. So again, just gently pushing it in. Now here at the top, it's quite, but it's more like a tri that comes down into a thin triangle. So if you look to where in relationship with the eye that it goes, so it goes to about there. So just thin it out there. So, and then it comes up there and it's a lot wider. So we can take that out a little bit there. And then it comes down to there. Then what we've got is here, we've got another darker area. So we've got some small areas there. And then these are probably not as dark as these. So you try and pull the pressure off that little bit more. When you start to go into where the lighter area is, you just release your pressure again. So we'll end up with the smooth. So that comes down and it's sort of doing a triangle down. If you look, you've got this triangular section here. So it's sort of dark. So keep looking at which way the direction of the, so you're looking for the direction, shape, and tone. So that actually goes on this side here. It goes quite far up. Comes to about there. But just gently pushing that pigment in. And then here, it's a bit wider and it comes up to this section here, which again comes back out into a light area. It's quite a narrow light area, but it is light. Okay, so we've mapped that bit in. Then here there is just little bits of the darker. We just put a little bit of that in. That comes down here quite a bit. This is very light here at the bottom. So this bit is sort of a light mid-tone. So I am actually just going to mark it in, but I'm not going to put a lot of, I'm just doing a very, very, very light layer on there. Okay, so you can see where it's going to be darker, I have put a little bit more pressure on, but where it's going to be lighter. So again, it's looking a bit ugly at the moment, but we're getting there. So that's the grey. That was the cold grey 5. Now, if you want to, you can work downwards and just do a section at a time. But when I'm starting, as long as I can block these areas in, then I'll start to do that as I come down. So let me just get the darkest areas in for now. So the darkest area on the ear is here, is at the bottom. Okay, so I'm just putting that in so it gets thinner up here. So I'm using the dark sepia 175, okay, of the Polychromos range. These are all Polychromos pencils on this one. They are my favorite. The one, well, they're the most popular that I use. But I must admit, I do like the Lightfast, but not a lot of people have actually got the Lightfast because they are quite expensive. I'm pulling a few little bits of loose hair out, as you can see just there. And I've put on a medium pressure. And then as I come out into this lighter area, I'm actually taking the pressure off. So you can see a difference there. Okay. So that's going to be the darkest area there. But we're also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark in this area, which is from here. You'll see you've got creases there. And if I just mark this, I'm going to push in just slightly, just so it's got a little bit of the, so you know, because it's not a straight line. And then we're going to come up here. This is where the side of the face starts. So I'm still using the dark sepia. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this line up. And then what we'll do is we'll pull some of this in. So we can, so it looks a lot, smooth it out later, but and then what I want to do is I'm just going to use my my cold grey 3 first, and I'm just going to start. Now the fur on the neck and the face is sort of horizontal, more or less. So again, I'm just going to push some of this pigment. I'm not going to do a lot of this. I'm just going to put a little bit in just so that you can see where the contrast, so we don't go too dark with these mid-tones up here in the, you know, in the ear. So we've got a guide basically as to the darkest areas, and then we need mid-tones and the light tones. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, fetch it further out in a bit. Okay, so that's going to come right out. It comes right out into the face, really. So we'll start with that. So that's sort of there. So then I'm going to take me dark sepia again. It's a little bit too sharp, probably this. So I'm going to actually use it on the side. Because if you look closely at this area, there isn't a lot of direction. You can see, because I want it to look like a soft fur. So if you look, I'm just using it, I'm pushing it basically into the, so I'm not putting too much pressure on. And the further back you hold it, the less you can, the less pressure you can actually get in onto it. Now, as we come up here, it does become quite, you can't exactly see which direction the fur's going as such. So we're only wanting this very little bit of section here, just so we can have an idea of how dark it is going to go. So what I'm going to use as well is, have I got the right, so I've got a black Polychromos. Again, I'm pushing little hair bits up there. But you can see the tooth of the paper now is starting to, I'm not using excessive pressure again, but I'm just building some of these layers up. So now we're using the actual black from the Polychromos range. And again, the further back you hold it, and as I say, we're just trying to get that smooth look for now, where the darkest area is. It's going to come out with some. So as I'm coming out, if you look, I'm pulling my pressure, I'm lightening the pressure even more. So even though it's a black, you can see it's lightening up as we come out. So you won't have what you call a straight, a dead edge where it just stops and the color changes. We need to make it a smooth transition as we can. But we also need to make this look like it's got bits of the white fur from the turnover of the ear, the little turnover flap coming into the black. So this is why I say it's negative space. So you're actually pushing the black into the white or the lighter area so that it looks like the light area is on the top. And also by putting the dark area there, you'll see that it's pushing this ear, further this way. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of the indigo, because what indigo will do with the black when you're working with the black. So this is really close to the edge where the darkest shadow is. I'm also going to put a little bit of that on there. Okay, I'm just lighting it off as we go into the lighter area. So all the time that we're adding layers, and then just pull it off lightly into there. So we'll join that up later with some more colours. I'm going to get this real dark edge as such. So if you look now, we're getting, so that's the darkest part that we're going to have from this ear. So these midtones, which are going to look quite dark on the top, but they're not as dark as this bit right near the edge. Now then, I've got the Derwent black pencil, which is quite, pigmented. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that on right near the edge again, and then pull it out gently so it comes out a little bit lighter and push it in just up there. So we've got a bit of an edge there for the darkness, so you can see where it's going to be. And I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on these layers. I'm using it quite light. I'm doing more of I'm pushing it into the paper and then lifting as I come out into the lighter areas. Okay. So that's the edge of the bottom of the ear. So there we go. So now if we make this flap look stand out, then you're going to start and see the ear to take shape and form. Okay, so again, we're going to put on another layer, not really concerned with too much detail, just we're still mapping in and we're trying to get the tonal differences between the got the light mid-tone, a mid-tone, and a dark mid-tone. So we've got to try and get these in. So just keep making sure you look at your reference. So that's going to be so we're using the grey, cold grey 3 for the lightest mid-tones. And then I've got the cold grey 5 for sort of mid dark tones, and then I'm going to use a mixture of the cold grey 6, and then on top I may put in, depending how blue I want it to be, I can put some layer just to sort of shade it over with some paint grey or some indigo. So again, we're going in with this light layer, which is the cold grey 3232 on the Polychromos. So this is going to be the light mid-tone. So it's going to be slightly dark, and that's the very light tone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just again, gently pushing that from that dark section there, and that comes around. It's quite a big section up here. Like that. So just push it in. And then here it's sort of, so I'm lightening that off. So what I might do is just put a little bit of the ivory over there as well, just to keep that. So that sort of fades off there. Okay, so that's the lighter. Could put just a bit of warm grey, I suppose. And then it sort of starts to get a bit, just a little bit darker here. Okay. Fetch that up here. All the time watching. Oops, sorry, you haven't seen that. So there you go. Look, so there, that's really light. It's almost as light as this flat, but not quite. So what I've done is I've just put a little bit of ivory, or you could put your warm grey one there, or cold grey one, just to keep that. And then this is just, it's going to fade into this colour here, which then we're going to blend out some of that real dark colour at the bottom of the ear. So can you see how it's blending it out, and it's going to make it look like it's not just stuck on the end of the ear. It is it's a smoother transition. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the Payne's grey where it moves into that light colour with a very, very light pressure. There we go. Just to make it look a little bit smoother. Okay. So we've got this lighter mid-tone, as we call it, coming up here. Okay. That's the real lighter one. So then this is, it's a little bit darker than that. So it's not too dark that I want to put on the cold grey 5 or anything yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit more pressure on here where I start to go into that darker area. So if you look, I'm not a lot. And if I'm holding my pencil about halfway back, okay, well, that's going to go into that lighter area there. But you can see it's just slightly a little bit darker. Okay, so I've left that a little bit lighter. So I can always get the warm grey one and just, or the cold grey, and push that into there just to lighten it up a little bit. Or you could even use the white luminance if you want to lighten it up. We don't want to lighten it up too much. This is what I'm saying about tone. You've got to get the tones right, but sometimes they're so gradual you can hardly see them. But that's what happens with the dog. The fur's got to look like it's changing from one colour to the other, but just very gradually. So now I'm just gonna, so as I say, I've got a little bit more pressure on this now. Looking at my reference photo all of the time, changing the fur direction just there. Okay. Coming up here. And then it starts to come into this darker area. Now, before I get to that, I just want to just keep pushing this into the paper. Now you can see how we've got that dark bit, light bit there, and also we've got a slightly lighter tone from there to there, and then it goes back to a darker tone, which is what I'm looking for. That comes around there up to that darker tone. So, okay. Do is I'm just going to move this up. I'm just gradually layering it up, just putting that little bit more pressure on. go. Make sure you change the direction as you go in because the fur will start to go that way. Okay. And all the time, this one is a little bit blunter pencil, so that's fine. It's ideal for what I'm looking for. Okay. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is, because we've taken that lighter, what's going to be the darker bit out a bit further, I'm going to start to put that in now. So when we come to where they both meet, we can start blending them easier. So put those pencils to one side. So now what I'm going to use is, I've got the Cold Grey 5. And I'm looking now at the top. I'm just going to put the little bit of the detail in where the dark comes in like that. Then we've got the light bit, and then we've got this darker bit just here again. It comes over. So I'm pulling it with a curve because it looks like it's sort of coming over the ear. And that will go, and then that goes towards the face. Okay, so where it's darker, just going to put a little bit more pressure on. And then as we come out into the lighter area, that's when you release the pressure. Okay, so closest to the flap of the ear is what I'm calling it. That's going to be the darkest point. So I'm just going to put some negative bits in, not a lot, very tiny. As I say, the coat on the Labrador is very smooth. Okay, so this is where, and then as I'm coming out into a lighter area, or lighter dark area, whatever you want to call it, but as we're coming out, you release your pressure. So the darkest parts are really close to this ear. Turn here. So again, I'm just mapping these areas in. Then that goes sort of over there. We've got one bit there. And then I just want that one we were just using before. And then that's where the flap then comes in. So if I just smooth that out a little bit. Okay. So you want to be careful you don't go up in a complete straight line, and you want to go a little bit further out than the darkest tone's going to be. Okay, and then just release your pressure as you go into this, where it gets like right at the end. It's a little bit lighter at the end. So we take this out just a bit further than the darkest part, because we're going to put some dark in, and we need it to sort of have all these different tones so they all look blended nicely together. So you always pull the one underneath out just that little bit further, but then pull it and lighten it off. So like down here, as it's coming into that mid-tone, I'm just pulling the pressure off a little bit there. Okay. Then we can blend those bits as as it is a little bit darker. So you want the, yeah. Smoothing it out a little bit now. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the Cold Grey 6. This is quite a dark colour. So with a very light pressure, I'm going to put a little bit of that up on that end of that ear there, and then release it into just releasing it into the lighter area, just to start to shape that bottom of that ear there. So again, this is quite sharp. So down here we have got just a little bit darker than the tone that's on the paper now. So using the cold grey 6, I'm just gently looking and putting in a few bits of detail. So it looks like there's a line of fur there. So just gradually, just gently. And then here, that's where we're coming to this darker area again. So let's go back now to this fold. Let's try and get this sorted. So we've got some of the darker mid-tone up here at the top. So now I'm starting to put a little bit of the detail in just so we know. But again, as we pull it out, you just release. So I'm using very light pressure on here. So I may just do several layers just to darken it up. Okay. And then just moving around using the side of the pencil. It's quite dark as it comes out here. And then it goes back into that light section there. Okay. And then it comes down here, but it's not going out as far. So this is where we start to darken it up nearer to the flap. But as we're going back into the dog, we're releasing the pressure a little bit there. Okay. Can you see how it's building up the tones? Okay. So keep, as I say, looking at your reference. So that dips in a bit there. So there's a bit more dark there. And that's where it's really dark, in that shadow area just there. Okay, and then lift it up as we come out again. We're still on with using the greys here, and we're not going really dark. Okay, so that comes down. And it sort of comes here into that section there, and that joins up with that line that we started to create there at the bottom. So just lift your pressure off to match that one there. Okay. Okay. We're going to be putting some other greys in here and there's some other colours. There's a little bit of blue in there and what have you. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of the black, but not heavy. Just light, precious. So I'm starting at the top again. So it's where it's really dark. I'm just pushing into the pigment, into the paper, just so we can get a right up next to the ear and then pull it, just pull your, release the pressure. And then just release your pressure as you come out here. It looks nice and smooth. And then more pressure there, that's darkest. Okay, and then it seems to lighten off a little, so it's not quite as dark here. So, you know, you do change your tone as you're going down. So here it's not quite as dark. Then as you come back down here and it turns, it gets a little bit darker again. Okay. And that's where it sort of joins or sort of comes up to, so we can blend them in a little bit more later on. And then here, I'm just going to put in a bit more of that line because we will be going over it with some more grey. And then up here, we've got bits of dark just there. Okay. Just keep looking at the top. I missed that bit here, which is quite dark. So I've got a little bit of the dark here. And again, that comes down, just a very thin line there. So there's a lighter area there and a lighter area there. Then again, let's just put a little bit of black on here. we know where the darker areas are. And then we've got this one it's not that dark, but it sort of comes across on the top of the ear there, and just let a few stray little hairs, not many, a few little stray hairs there, right on the edge. So you've not got a straight line. It does look like fur. Okay, and then down here we have got this bit here that goes into a lighter area, and that's the darker mid-tone, and it's darkest here. Again, I'm just plotting this in, but using very light pressure. Okay. Pull off on there on the lighter section. Okay, and that comes up. Comes up there. So now you can see where all the areas are mapped out. So now I'm going to go back in with my cold grey 3. So this is the lighter mid-tone. And I'm just going to layer up some of these where I can see, and blending it more or less into where we're going to be putting the darker area. So here at the bottom, blend that in, blend it in here. Okay. Again, just keep making sure that you're starting to change the direction of the fur as you're pushing the pigment in. Okay. Well, this is quite a nice grey for the lighter mid or the mid tone, because it's sort of got a bluey, it's a bluey grey, so but it's quite a nice match actually, looking at the picture now, the reference, and looking at what we put in. So while I'm here, I'm going to keep the Payne's grey, because it's not, like I said, it's a bit of a, not a right dark grey here. But we have got some. So I still want to work on that shadow. Just push it out into the lighter area slightly, like that. Okay, and then go back to this cold grey 3. If you want, hold it about halfway up, so you're not going to be putting too much pressure through. Changing the direction of the fur. But again, when you look at it, it's not straight. It's got a bit of a, so don't forget, it's got, because the dog's got muscles in its ear, or it's got flesh underneath. So it's, the ears move, they can move their ears. So you want it sort of, it goes, even though it's going in that general direction, it's not straight lines. You've got to sort of blend and give them some sort of a bit of a curve, which then gives it the shape. And then up this side, it's going up a little bit that way. And then it comes down. Then it comes round here. Okay. So keep blending it, pushing the pigment in, but keeping your strokes very close together. And don't make them look like long fur strokes, because they say the lab hasn't got long fur, but we're not quite we're not onto the detail just yet. So just keep plodding along. Now that's starting to look a bit too light down there. So if it starts to look a bit too light, just put a very light pressure over it, just so that it blends in nicely there. That looks a little bit more blended there. Going back over, using very light strokes, but you can see it's building up each layer. You'll see I keep turning my pencil in my hand, but I'm not working with a ultra sharp pencil. I'm actually, it's got a bit of a blunt edge on it, which works better with this kind of fur. We will be putting some fur detail in, obviously, but not too much. So you can see as it comes further up this way, you do get that slightly darker tone here. So you just build it up by putting on layers. Okay. Every now and then, just put a little bit more pressure on just to get those, so it's not a flat, you are creating some texture. And as we come up to where it's getting darker, blending it out with this cold grey 3, and then I put a bit more dark colour in so we get the darker area looking a bit smoother. Now this is fairly light here, so I'm releasing the pressure quite a lot there. Okay. And it is quite light on this side here, the lighter areas. There. This is a little bit darker, so it's got a little bit extra pressure, and that's going to blend because it gets darker at the edges as well. That's where it starts to go darker there. Okay. And then that comes round here and it goes lighter. Okay. And here we've got a few of the again, another layer, just gently take off the pressure there, blend that up so that nicely blends into there, and that blends into there. So the bottom of the ear now is starting to look nice and blended. So again, I'm just coming further back up here and going back over this darker colour with this light, well, the cold grey 3, just so that it fills a bit more of the tooth of the paper in, so it doesn't look so grainy. But you know where your dark tones are going to be now, so you can actually work over them with some of this cold grey 3 just to make sure they go blend, they get blended out a bit better. Okay, blending it now. Come out from that darker area. You can use a little bit more pressure and then just release it as we come out there. Okay. All the time, just looking at your reference photograph and looking where you've got light and dark patches. So even in the mid-tones, you've got other tones as well. So down here it is slightly darker. So I'm just putting a few more layers here, where it's starting to look a bit smoother. In the direction all the time that I need to. Right. Again, I'm just going to make sure darken up a little bit there. Okay. That actually goes right up to here. So I'm going to put that line in. I'm sort of going to go back over it, just pushing the pigment in and out, just so that it's not like a complete straight line. Okay. And then some of this comes over here. And we've got this darker, right on the edge there, a bit of the darker tone. A little bit of fur detail there. Comes down into there. Then we've got this bit that flicks off a few there. And come down. Because we can't actually see the fur direction, I'm sort of scrumbling or just pushing the pigment and lifting the pressure as we come out. And just checking where we have got this, where the darkest areas are and where there's some lighter areas. So here, and this bit comes back down a bit dark because it more or less blends away into that underneath area. Okay. And then up here, I'm going to use the cold grey 6. So if you look, this comes up here. It's quite dark. Another triangle that comes up here. So if you look, I'm not putting that much pressure on, but where it's dark, I am sort of looking at putting a little bit more pressure on. Into both sides of the line as we go up, just so that we can get that pressure. And then just slightly lighter in the center. It's a darker on the edges again. So, you know, you can let a few loose hairs show. That gives it some sort of texture and depth. You know, there's fur there, it's soft. Push where it comes in and then release when it's. So this is a little bit lighter, this area, so we can actually see a few of the fur lines in there. Same with this one coming out, both sides. Then this bit here is quite light. Good, and then this bit comes right the way down here. I'm using light pressure and I'm sort of going backwards and forwards, but I'm dabbing the paper really, not I'm just putting the pigment into the paper and leaving some lighter areas there. Okay, that comes down and then just pull out where you can see that strands of the darker hair coming into the lighter hair. Okay, and then as it comes down here, it comes back into that corner there and then build that up a little bit there. And then push that so you get a little bit of the colour into there. So you can see like you've got a little fold sort of thing there as well. And then this is where we have got some more darker, just odd bits of fur. It's just a bit darker where it's coming from here into the light. Okay, And then here's where it's a lot lighter there. And here comes out and it comes out a bit lighter. Comes down. So now I'm just looking at all the bits of detail that I can actually see on the reference. So there are bits of fur like you can actually see. So you just sort of make sure you can get a little bit of the detail. And we don't want too much of the detail because I say it's a Labrador, so it's got a smooth coat, really. This wants to go a bit darker. Okay, and then pull it out into the mid-tone there. Okay, so it's getting lighter as we come out. You can see how the gradual change is happening. Okay, so you've got it quite. You can see it quite close up there. So you can still see some of the. So if you want to, do you want to put just a glaze or light pressure? I'm using the white luminance. So this is going to lighten the colours. So we'll have to go over them again. But if you look, what this does, it actually helps to smooth the surface out. You don't need a lot of pressure. You're just using a light pressure side of the pencil. And I'm just trying to get rid of some of this graininess. Now, this is the only luminance pencil we're using on this piece. I've chosen just to use polychromos for this. They were the first coloured pencils that I used. So I've used them quite a lot, really, and I do like them. But I also use the Pablo Luminance, Cavendish Luminance, and as I say, the Derwent Lightfast. One thing I can say is that if you use luminance as your base layers instead of polychromos, you'll find your slice tool. You use your luminance as the base, and then go in to use some of the polychromos, some of the Pablo, mix them up. But because you got the base layers as luminance, you'll find that the slice tool will work a lot better through there. Right, so now let me just darken this bit up again and pull it up into there so it's fades away a little bit. Excuse me. The light pressure just to fade it into there. And then side of the pencil. I'm using some strokes there just to all the time I'm just looking at this reference photo. Pull some of that out lightly. So we're redarkening these up because obviously the white luminance lightens the colour, but it does, as I say, gives you the pencil a smooth look once you put another layer on. Down, that fades a little bit more. Fades, and then be a little bit, that's the darker part just here. Okay. There. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back over with the cold grey 3. Just trying to blend it, so I'm using a shading motion, but I'm still following the direction of the fur. Okay. Can you see how each time you put a layer on, that little bit darker, but it also starts to smooth the paper out a little bit. Okay. Up here. All the strokes. Now this bit here is quite light, so let's be careful. That in. So that's to get a bit darker, the mid-tone here, where this fades into. That. Like that. Okay. So now let's have a quick look at this. So I'm just going to zoom in. So this is way too light now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly, with the cold grey 3, I'm just going to go. So that fur is, so again, I'm following the direction. I'm just putting a light layer of the cold grey 3. Okay. And then we need, so I'm going to use Payne's Grey, I think, for this one, because it's got like a bluey. So at the bottom, it's a little bit darker. So I'm just going to gently put some of the Payne's Grey. So I'm only doing it as a glaze over the top there. And then right on this edge, or where the edge is from the head, that's going to have a bit of dark. Because it's going over like that. So each of the sides are going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to use the Payne's Grey over this dark and just hit that, pull it out again. I'm actually glazing some Payne's Grey over. Oh. Okay. Well, they're looking a bit too much at the same. So this one gets a little bit darker there. So release the pressure and then put the pressure on a little bit. That's it. When it gets lighter there, that's better. And then here it's quite dark. So again, a bit more of the pressure, more pushing the pigment into the paper and pulling, letting it out as we come out into a lighter area. But again, it's just slightly, it's just got a slightly bluer. So I'm just putting a little bit more Payne's Grey on it. There are some bigger, larger areas. So I'm just going to come into here to this mother mid-tone. That. There we go. Then up here. Some of these coming out that way. Go. So now I'm just putting on pressure where it needs to be, smoothing the paper out and then pulling it out into lighter areas where it needs to be. So that's fairly light up there, so that's fine. So it's just down here where we need to. Pressure, so there we go. So there we go. We've built that up. So I'm just now going to put in a little bit of the dark indigo on the edge of this fold. Like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the warm grey one. And I'm blending all that nicely together now. Okay, so you can see how that now it's not sparkling white and it's not sticking out too much. And then where you can see some grainy bits, if you just want to go over, blend it with a warm grey, so you're not actually lightening it too much. You're putting a grey back on. Okay. So I'm only using light pressure, but I'm glazing it. So you basically just following the direction of filling all the tooth of the paper in that's left as such. Okay, so go in the same direction of the fur, which makes it easier. And that's that ear done then. For now, we may go back to it. Okay, so take it off here a minute. See if you can see it a little bit better just down there on the side. So there you go. So you can see we've got this lighter area here. I think actually that still needs dark. So I'm just going to put a little cold grey 3. Like I say, the tones are supposed to be very subtle. Just blend that in there. Come up there. So that's quite dark there. There we go. So we've got the nice mid-tones. We've got the light. It's got some light coming through there. And then this is the flap where the ear is coming over. And then we've got this. And it does make it look like it's going around over the edge and not just sticking out. And that's because when you put it in, you're doing that kind of stroke as you put it in. So it gives it that bit of round edge bit to it. And then this is where, again, you've got that other darker flap. Okay, so that comes down there. And then that blends back into the ear. So you can see that it is actually part of the ear. So you're just using another slightly darker. And you're not actually putting too many fur lines in, but you're just putting the detail and just making sure that you're going from the dark to the light, but you sort of blending it as you go along. So everything looks blended on an animal. Everything has to look, because it's just the way the light hits the fur. So that's one ear. So you would do exactly the same with the other ear, but just have a look at it because it is a little bit warmer. So where I've used cold greys, I'd use a couple of warm greys in there, because around this part of his ear there, it's got like the black is a warmer black. So I'd use a warmer, but not too opposite them, because obviously, it's still got to look like the same dog. Um, we have got some ready browns which we can use up on the top of his head, because it's sort of like a purpley colour. So the next thing what I would tackle personally is I do the ears. I've done the ears, sorry. I always like to put in the nose as well. So if you're put the main features in and then work the rest of the fur around it. So make sure you've got some protection paper around, bits of, as I say, I use the clay fontaine. Just so that you don't smudge what you've already done. Okay, so I'm going to take it up. So this is the nose, sorry. Got the ear. This is the nose. Now this is where it's got to look shiny and sparkly. Now, like the eyes, when you've got a sort of wet patch or where the light hits it's nice if you put the blue in it. I don't know why it works, so it gives it that bit of shine. It gives it a shiny look. So I'm just looking at the nose. It's going to be quite. What I need to do first is distinguish the actual lines of the nose and what goes where the nostrils go. So I'm going to use the dark sepia like I normally do with a point. So this is a nice pointed pencil. Again, I'm just going to lighten some of these lines off. I don't want to destroy them all together because I need to see where I'm going. So, I mean, some of this is going to change because of so I'm using a very light pressure, and what I'm doing here is I'm outlining his nose as I see it. So I have got the reference photo. I like to have the reference photograph right next to me, just so that I can see exactly where I'm going and make sure I've got this. So it comes across there like that, and then it comes up the side, then it curves round. It's got a bit of a curve on it there. It comes down there, and then it goes up there and there. And then round this side, it comes round there, up to there. Actually, combo rubber. I've gone a little bit too far there, because otherwise we're not going to have any space for fur around the ear. Okay. I'm looking at the darkest parts of the nose. So that's there. That's going to come up there. This bit's going to be the grey on top of the nose. So there. If we get the nostrils in, so this nostril comes around there. So it comes there. So that's that nostril. So make sure you get them lined up here. That's going there. It's going to be dark there. Comes around there. Comes around there. So that's that nostril. This centerpiece comes up there. Then here we've got dark patches. Some dark patches that come over here. That into there. This is dark under here. I'm using my dark sepia, but I'm using circular motions and darker up here. And then this bit here, this is sort of the top of the nose as we sort of know it. So that comes round. So that's sort of like complete. So that comes round there. And then this bit comes up to meet it this way, like that. And then here we've got some patches of grey and some light. So, and on this side, it's the same. That's grey to there. We've got the light bit there. And that top's light there. So it's quite a strange looking nose, but we've got it mapped out roughly where we want it to be. So I want to go in with because it looks quite warm, does this? I'm going to use the warm grey one, light pressure. And I'm using circular motions here. I'm going all over this part of the nose. We'll deal with the exterior of the nose once we've got the actual nostrils and everything sorted. Okay. So that's a layer of the warm grey one. And I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to put the cold grey one, which will neutralize it. So it's a bit more neutral in colour. Circular motion. That. Okay. Right, the dark sepia, I'm going to actually start to put in these darker areas first, just so we know where we are. So I'm using a circular motion, but I'm sort of looking at my reference constantly. So this bit here is where it's really dark because it's like where the nostril disappears in. So if you look, and it comes up there. Okay. Also, we've got some dark patches here at the top. But if you look out there again, look, just don't just put the color there. Look at the shape and try and look at the actual structure of the nose. Okay. Quite dark there. And then there, a little bit of the dark. Okay, so that's that side. And then down here, this is where this bit, sort of, this bit of skin that comes around here, and it forms this is where, so it's coming out of the nostril now. But this actually is going to be a slightly different colour, but I'm just going to plot it in with this dark sepia. So it comes down here. And then it comes up to this, just sort of with that, so it's not a dead straight line. Okay, so just curve that way, and then it curves that way. It's making this a bit look like a bit of a windowsill, as I call it. A few markings on it, so I'm just going to put them in. And then here it gets really dark. It comes up to that colour there. Okay. And then light around there, and it comes around there. That's a different colour. So let's look at this side. So the nostril comes out where the round bit is. That's dark there. Okay, I'm using circular motions all the time here. This is a slightly lighter grey there. And then this is where it's a bit darker there. So that's where it goes into the nostril. It comes out here. That, and then we've got a bit of a dark colour there. Then this is dark here. And then that's where it comes out and forms the what I call the windowsill. Okay. So all the time we're building this up, you can see the shape of the nose appearing. Okay. I use the dark sepia to sort of put the layer down instead of like I did here, because this is quite warm. His nose is quite warm, so quite dark as well, but warm. But we're going to be using the if we use some of the Mars Black out with the light fast range. This is more of a reddy black. It's got that redness in it. But if you haven't got that, what you basically need to do is use a light black. So you use the 199 very lightly, and you could put a bit of burnt sienna, or you could use let's have a look. You could use walnut brown over the top. There, that's on the darkest areas, which is going to be the nostrils and this bit down here. The rest of it, we're going to use some warm grey. So we're finished with the cold greys for now till we do the ear. So now I'm going to get some of these warm greys. So, and also I'm going to get some light blue, because where we've got some of these bits where the highlights are, I'm actually going to put a little bit of blue there. So I'm only putting a light layer just now. And we've got the blue there. It comes across there a little bit. And I'll just push them down here. We're going to have some grey on top of it, but there. Okay. And then we've got on the top of that darker area there, and around that bit there, we've got some blue. Okay, so that's going to be sort of like at the top of the nose. It's going to be a lot lighter. Okay, so I've just put the blue in there. So we've got warm grey 5. We can use the warm grey 3. And I've got a warm grey 6. Okay. So these greys are warmer, so you may not need to add other colours with it. So let me just fetch that down. So that comes round. So all the time, just keep double checking your reference, just so if you need to change it, you can. So I'm using, this is the warm grey 6, because this is quite a dark area coming out the nose, but it's not quite as dark as that bit. And when we darken that up, you'll see. So it comes out like that, and then it comes round here and up to this bit here. So it has got some shape to it. So as it comes out, it's down there, leaving a little bit of a gap. So keep looking at the shapes. of what you're getting from the nose. So as everything comes out of this nostril, it does it sort of like you would a clock, so that the strokes do change. So up to here, so they come out like that, and then just move it round like a clock, and just leave little lighter areas where we need to put some lighter colour. So here we've got a bit of a lighter colour. So I'm using the warm grey 3 very lightly. I'm just going to go over there and down that bit there. Okay, I'm actually going to put a little bit in there, even though we're going to darken that up a bit. Over here, and then this bit here. This is the shadow on the top, so it's going to be we're going to use the slice to try and create some of the texture of the nose. Because the nose does have quite a lot of texture. So this bit here is light grey, but it's like that's more white. This is just a light grey. And then again back to the warm grey 6, and on this side we've got some dark bits coming out around there, down to the nostril there. That comes round. That's the darkest part of the nostril. And then it comes out here. And then again, we've got this dark grey, warmy grey colour here. It comes round to that bit there. Okay. I'm going to put that line in there a little bit so we don't lose it. And then I'm going to use the warm grey 3 just to put in some of these lighter colours of grey there to blend them in a bit. Okay. That shape there in top of the nose. That comes down to, so again, now back to the cold grey. Sort of round there. Joining that bit of the nostril there. Okay. Round there. Dark green. Okay. So I'm now going to go back to my black because I need to distinguish these. That's the bottom of the nostril, where it cuts the skin there. So in between, there's just a little bit of light, not a lot. And then this really needs to be the darkest. These are the darkest parts of the nose. Pull some of that out there. Okay, and then on this side, a sharp line there. That's the darkest part of the nostril there, and just that top bit, and then it comes out round here. And then we've got this bit in here, and the dark just there. So I'm doing circular motions, but then just lightening it up as we pull up. Okay. Then on the top of the nose here, we're going to have the grey. So I'm just going to put this black in the darkest parts. That's going to be dark just there. Okay, so it's starting to smooth out a little bit now, starting to look like a 3D nose. Okay, so I'm going to put some indigo on here just to give it, you look, when you add indigo to the black, it saturates the colour a little bit more, and it does make it look a lot darker, and it's giving it some a bit more of a, it doesn't look flat. If you just use black on its own, it tends to look quite flat, and that's not what we're after. Okay, then I'm gonna come around here and put this here. So that's there. Pull back on the colour a little bit there. And then we've got this dark bit down here. So all the time you're using different layers and colours, you are creating more depth and shape, and it's starting to look more 3D. Right then, so let's have a look at the greys again. So I'm just going to use the warm grey 5 on here. Okay. And through that bit there. And this bit of the nose here, because it's got like speckles. You'll see it's got like speckledy bits. So what we've got to do is we've got to sort of blend this into with the blue and the white. I'm going to put some white in. And then same here, just put a little bit over there. So now I'm going to get the luminance, the white luminance. I'm actually just going to put in where you can see the white there. And where you can see the white here. So if you look at it, it sort of turns. It's not vertical strokes. Again, look at the, and then up here, it's sort of, again, it turns. Then it straightens out here at the top of the nose. And then here at this part, it goes that way. Okay. So they're the shapes on the nose. So need to smooth this surface out a little bit more. So I am, where's the Mars? Right, so I'm going to use the Mars black. You can use a sort of black with either a dark brown or burnt sienna. If you look at this, it's got sort of a reddy tone to it, so I know it's quite deeply saturated. So I'm going over the whole of the nose, but I'm pressing where the real dark areas are and pulling off where the lighter areas are. And again, you can see, use the shapes. Make sure I don't lose that center bit there, then pull it back off there. And then these bits here are a bit lighter. Now these bits here at the top, they've actually got a red colour to them. Now you could use burnt sienna, which has got a bit of a red tinge to it. But I'll tell you what I would use, what if you have got it, is the Carpet Muntum violet, or even, I'll tell you what I will use. I've got some red violet here. So if I put that very lightly on the black, haha, it gives it a sort of a reddy purpley tinge, which is nearer to what the colour is on this top part of the dog anyway, on the nose. And some of this underneath bit there. So it's giving it that little bit of a red or purpley tinge. Okay. And then I'm going to put a bit more of the white. I'm going to try and make this stand out more, this white area. So I'm going over with the white over all of this top bit of the nose, just to lighten it all a little bit. And then down here as well. There. That's it. Okay. I'm going to get my blade. So I've got my ceramic blade. If you haven't got one of these, try a craft. I wouldn't recommend really a craft knife on this paper with, unless you've got lots and lots and lots and lots of layers on. You could use some gouache or paint some of this on, or if your Tombow rubber's small enough, you might be able to get some bits out with Tombow rubber. But if you look on the top of the nose, you see some of these marks. So you can either scrumble, what I call scrumble, We'll try and get some of them out with by. Right, I don't think there's enough layers on. Or his blade needs changing, which I think is more likely. Okay, it's giving me some of them, but then what I'm going to do is see if I can lift some of them out with this. So the like lines and dots, if you look, it's just giving a bit of texture to this nose. And then if you go back in with the black and just put in some darker bits as well. Back over the really dark sections. Just dotting, stippling, just to create a little bit of texture there on the nose. Okay, and then also with the white, just to get some of that texture. Dashes, because that's more like dashes down here. Okay. And then just a glaze, a slight bit more blue over, just to give it that bit of glazy look. Okay, so there's the nose. Okay, I mean, when you look at it close up, you will see it does look a bit, but what you need to do is keep standing back and looking at it. I mean, we're gonna all of these areas as you work along, you might find that you need to darken some areas. But you just do that as you go along. Okay. So I'm just gonna put just try and tidy that black up a little bit more, the dark. Okay, so you can see now that nose looks 3D. You can see that bit looks like it's skin coming out, and we've got the dappled effect on the top. Okay, so we can do the other ear now. So the other ear, we're going to work exactly the same as we did this first one. So I'm just going to sort of dab some of these lines out. I don't want to destroy them all together. I want to be able to see where I'm going. And this time I'm going to use some warm greys, okay? I think that's out of shape, so I'm going to rub that out completely. It's got a kink, but it's not that bad. That's it. Okay. So with my pencil, I'll get me one of these. It's going to come down here. That's it. Just so I've got this bit more here where the fur. That's it. I'll just reshape that slightly. Okay, so we're starting on this here. So this time I'm going to use the warm greys. But I'm going to do the same base layer. So I want a warm grey one and a cold grey one. Okay. And I'm going to use fairly blunt pencils. So I'm going to start with the warm grey one. So this has got more of a tuft up here. And then we've got quite a few light mid-tones here. And then coming down here, we've got some dark at the bottom. So we may have to rub some of these. So like here, this is like a tuft at the top of the ear. So I'm actually going to rub that line out because it's quite light, and then it goes into a dark area. So what I want to do is give it its shape that way. Okay. that comes into there. So again, follow the direction of the fur. So that comes down here. And then again, it ends up more or less vertically coming down at the bottom. And then here it starts to go back up again. Okay. So basically you just need to put this first layer on of warm grey 1. And then we're going to go over it with the cold grey 1. Okay. So I'm not being as precise, but I do want to get as much of the direction of furring as I can. I also want to make sure I get a good light covering of the warm grey 1. And that off, and then I'm going to go in and just follow with the cold grey 1, which will neutralize it a little bit. Again, follow the direction. So up here it goes that way, and then round here it turns round here, and then come down here. Okay. It's when you look at a black and white, a black dog, you'll see what looks like white sections on it, which is the light areas, obviously, but they're not white. They are a grey, you know, they've got to correspond with the rest of the colours in the dog. Okay, so we've got them 2 layers on. So I've got a light layer of warm grey 1 and cold grey 1. And then I'm just going to go in with the dark sepia, and I'm just going to, because again, we're going to have this real dark contrast, but on his snout, so let me just take that bit out. On his snout, that's quite light. That's a lot lighter than what the ear's going to be. So it starts about here. And as we go up, this is going to come up. Now here it gets a bit complicated because that's where the tufty bit is. So then we've got some dark bits of tufts here. So I'm looking at this reference very carefully. So that's going into a darker area. There. It comes around here. This is a mid-tone with a few dark bits in here. So I want to make sure I get them in. So that's going to be dark just there. Okay, and then we've got just a little bit of light in between that bit there and where it comes down the side of the dog's head. There. And then that comes there. So I'm putting the shape in there so you can see that. Got a light section there, and then from here it's like a V. So I'm just going to lightly map in. That's going to come out there. That's going to come down here. Then it turns that way. Okay, and then we've got some in his ear there, which goes round, and then on the end, got some that come out. Down there. And again, this is going to be a darker section here. Works up here. So I know the rule of thumb is almost always working light to dark, like we do with watercolor. But I just find by plotting in with a lighter pencil, either a brown or, you know, if I'm doing something like this and I'm using the polychromos greys, then I tend to just stick with those. And I like to map in where the darker areas are, which makes it easier for me to correspond the light areas. So there's going to be a light section up here. Comes out a little bit there, and that's it. Comes into that bit there. So that's where it fades. and this comes out. There's a bit of a shadow there, then it comes down, and then we've got this dark area around the bottom of the ear, just like we did on the other side. Okay, and that goes up there. Got little bits, odd bits of dark there. So I'm actually just marking the shapes in, really. So at the bottom of the ear, we've got this sort of roundish shape there where we get the mid-tones and the darker mid-tones in. So again, I've got the rough ideas of the shapes where like we have here. So we're going to use the same process, but using warm grays. We may use a few cold grays as well, because around the bottom of the ear, around here, it is a little bit more blue. So I probably will use a bit more of the cold grey there. So I'll probably use the cold grey 3. So I'll start with some of that now, because there does seem to be a band of cooler grey just here. It comes up to this section there. Same up there. And it comes down into this bit here. Okay, and then that bit's a darker bit. So with that, I'm going to use the warm grey 4. It's going to come up around that ear there. And that's there. Again, I'm holding the pencil quite far back just so that I can't put too much pressure through it. Blend in this bit here. And that comes up into that darker area there. Okay, where it then fades away up here. And then that's there. And darker area. Yeah, comes into this real darker area. So this is the darkest. These two here are the darkest areas on the dog's ear. Okay, so again, they're marked in. So it does look ugly at the moment, but getting there. And then once we've got both the ears in, we can have a look. And then we'll get some of the face in, and we'll probably will end up darkening the ears. But I'd rather do them too light and go in darker than the other way around, because if you go too dark, you can't lighten it. So I'm just going to put these dark areas in the bottom of the ear. Again, like I said, right at the bottom, it's dark, and then you're just pushing the pigment, sort of pushing it up into the paper, and then release your pressure as you're getting in, and then we can blend that in. Okay. And again, you can just put a few little stray hairs there, so it makes the edge. And then this is where it's not all the way around the edge, it's just in sections like that. So we've got a few bits of sections that aren't. That's where the darkest bit is. That's around the side of the dog. So again, just put that in and just put the shadow in. There's a bit darker. Right. So now I'll start with the warm grey 2. There's a warm grey 3 there. Now for the midtones, I'm just gonna start using the warm grey 3. I might mix some of the cold grey 3 in with it as well, just because, as I say, it's not all overly warm. It's warmer than that here, but it's still got that blue tinge to it. It's probably the darkest areas that look warmer. So if we put where the darkest areas are going to be, if you put the warm greys there, and then where the lighter areas are, they do look more blue, except near the top. We might get a little bit lighter colour, but use then the cold grey 3. So if you just use a cold grey 3, you get that bluer tone for the lighter areas. But go over the dark areas with it as well. We use the warmer greys on top to darken. Okay. Not touching the real light areas at the minute because, as I say, see what I always leave them sort of last because I can see how much I need to add to them. So that's a cool colour coming down there. And that on the edge, you just got the cool colour there. It's a bit cooler up here, so put some of that up there. And in between here, it's a bit more bluey coloured. Okay. Okay, so now we just got to build those up. So we're going to be using the cold grey 3. May use a bit of, then we're going to use for the darker colour. We want the indigo Payne's grey. Maybe even the warm grey 6 for the real dark areas. I like here on the bottom. That, and then go in with some black at the very edge. Just shoving the pigment in, pressing it in and making it lighter as we come up. That. Soften that edge there as it's coming down into the ear. Okay, that's going to be really dark. And that actually, so I'll tell you what I can do. I'm gonna that black then actually, so it comes down. So now I've got the warm grey 3, using it on its side. I'm just gonna push this in. So it goes into the face like that. Looks like a bit of a base. And then I'm using the cold grey 6. This is the bit where we're going to sort of darken it like we did last time into the face bit. So here is where it fades off a bit lighter, then it gets darker here. All the time looking at the reference, pushing it that way into the lighter fur, because it really is a light fur next to it. So you want some crisp looking negative shape, should I say. Yeah, right round here. right against there. Push it in so it blends in. There we go. And then this is going to be really dark. Okay. Okay. And then this bit's quite dark. So I'm just going to go over with a bit of black and then I'll go over with some indigo later just to. Okay. And some down here. In fact, I'll use the cold grey 5 here. It's going to go up and then disappear somewhere here. There, like that. Again, I'm pushing it in and then around here as well. See where it's fading and it's blending there. Coming down a little bit more than where I want it. That. And then here we've got that other dark patch where it was a bit that way. And then it comes round sort of, so you're changing the direction of the fur and it gives it the shape that we're looking for. And then we've got this dark section just here. Again, pulling it round so we know where we're going, and then got some few stray hairs out there. So now we've got the dark and the light again. So we've just got to build that up. So that'll do for tonight. But if you can get that far, then take a photograph of it. And then, as I say, we'll work on the face. That's the darkest part. So once we get that done, we'll see how much darker we can take the ears. And then we're going to fade him off just down here. We're just going to fade him off here. I think his eyes are all right, but we may need to add some adjustments to that. But we've got the shapes in the ears. That's the most important thing. And then you work up and just complete. So if you complete this other ear, more or less the same. So I'll just complete it and then show it you using the same process. But like I said, we have got a touch of warmer colours in there. So put some warm greys in as well as the cold greys. Okay. And I will show you what it looks like. I'll just do some now. So if you want to just carry on watching instead of me talking, we can get this sorted. Okay. That was a warm grey 4. I'm now going to go in with the cold grey 5. Cold grey 5. Yep, cold grey 5. Now we're going for the cold grey 3 for the light areas. Okay, right. I'm going to go over it all with some warm grey. Sorry, yeah, warm grey 1, and that's to blend what's on there and sort of smooth out the tooth of the paper. So I'm using a light pressure and I'm just glazing the colour around everywhere, following the direction of fur as best I can. And that's just blending in what we've got so far. Light pressure. It's just going to smooth all of that in. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with I'm going to use my Mars Black. You can use a black with a bit of brown over the top. Where it's warmer, so like here, it looks a bit warmer. Put this in and then go over it with the black. Okay. Then I will go over that with some black. In the pressure, lifting it as going to lighter areas, and then just very light pressure over where it needs to be darkened slightly, or it's got some darker tones in it. Okay, that's sort of dark coming up here. That. I'm using the side of the pencil because obviously I don't want to I don't want a sharp point because I don't want to see all of the individual hairs. And then you're doing the dark parts now, so quite dark in the shadow areas just here. So push some of that into there and then lift it as you come out into the lighter area. Okay. Always look where you can see the darker areas and then just lift off when it gets sort of lighter. So here it's quite dark there, and then as we come down, you make it a bit lighter and get just a little, just the odd dark areas there. There's not many. And then lift it off into the lighter areas. There we go. And this is the darker area as well. And now you can see the darker areas are getting darker. So now we need to do the lighter area again with the cold grey 3. So as we're coming out of this darker area, put a bit more pressure and then lift it off in these really light areas. Where it gets a bit darker, just push it into the paper. So we're also, as well as putting another light layer on, we're actually blending. It's helping to blend these colours together as well. Okay, and then up here. A little bit more pressure around the dark areas. Okay. That's we're coming out and then lift it off as we go into the lighter area. Yep. As you can see, that this side actually is quite a lot darker. So what I would do is glaze over with a little bit of the indigo. Just glazing that over gently, like that. So that's softening that in. And if you look at it, it's just that touch darker than that here, which is what we want. We don't want it, it's only subtle, it's not, we don't want it to look way darker. So we'll leave that as it is for now. Tell you what I might do, just we've put the indigo on, let's go over with the Payne's grey, because that's a grey, but it's got a little bit of the where the darker areas are. Just put that little bit more pressure on and then pull it out as you come into the lighter areas. Excuse me, frog in my throat. Go. That's just down to each individual. What you may have to do is you may have to put a bit more dark colours in there. You might not. As I say, it depends on how hard you pressure you've put in to start with. I'm going to leave mine for like that for now. And then we're going to come back. We're going to do his face and fade away his neck. And then we can take a look at the whole thing and see where we need to darken up. So, I've left the lights quite light. So if anything, we'll need to darken them up. But for now, I'll leave it like that. So thank you very much. And I hope you get on with all that. All right. If you've got any questions, just drop me a line and I will try and get them answered as best I can. And if you can upload some of your pictures onto Patreon. That would be great. I'd love to see them. Or if not, just put them in on my email, which is, or Facebook even. On Facebook as Delia Prudence. But if not, just put them on an email, which is deliasart2912@gmail.com. I always like to see people's pictures of their work. Because it's nice to see and when you see it as well from a different, if you don't, from a different perspective, we're always learning, all of us, even I'm still learning. So that's what we've got up to now. I hope you enjoyed that session, and I'm hoping it came out a little bit better than the previous video. And well, as I say, I'll see you again. Hopefully, I will get the next video uploaded in the next couple of days. Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.